Game Week 5 captaincy is difficult. We either go with a player that's got a higher ceiling against Forest or a higher floor with more expected minutes. The first player on the shortlist is Mo Salah against Newcastle at Anfield, and the next two are both City players, Erling Haaland and Kevin De Bruyne, who both play Forest at the Etihad. Haaland's at a slight disadvantage being a forward, he's not got the clean sheet point potential, and he gets one less point per goal scored, which you'll see in the next section. There's not actually that much between Salah and Haaland's numbers. Obviously, like we've just mentioned, Salah being the midfielder, he gets the extra 20% points for a goal scored. Of course, Haaland's German League numbers have been converted with a 0.83 multiplier. That's because the Premier League is roughly 17% more difficult from an attacking perspective. Salah's non-penalty return points per 90 minutes are 0.7 higher than Haaland's, and the 0.8 on the underlying stats as well. He obviously comes out on top in this section. De Bruyne doesn't fare well because you only get 3 points for an assist, and he's more of a creative player than a finisher. Moving on to the set pieces, Salah's a dedicated penalty taker for Liverpool. It looks like Haaland's on penalty duties for City, which means De Bruyne isn't. However, the Belgian is the only player on the shortlist that takes direct free kicks, indirect free kicks and corners. Whilst pens are less frequent, they are more valuable, therefore the penalty takers have the best set pieces. Let's take a look at the probability of each player scoring or assisting. Something that's worth keeping mindful this game week is the fact that this is based on the assumption that each player plays 90 minutes. We'll review the expected minutes later on in the video. If Haaland was to play the whole match, he'd have a 71% chance of scoring, that's 14% higher than Salah. Even if he has reduced minutes, that figure could be still quite high, it just depends how much they reduce his minutes. De Bruyne's got a really low chance of scoring, but being the most creative player in the league, he's got a 53% chance of assisting. It's just not enough to compensate for his anytime goal scorer odds because he's got the lowest chance of returning. Salah and Haaland are practically neck and neck on the anytime assist odds. Haaland's 1% ahead, but he's 10% ahead on the anytime return odds. It's worth considering something that I mentioned earlier. Haaland gets 4 points for a goal, while Salah gets 5. If you multiply Haaland's 71% anytime goal scorer odds by 4, you get 2.84. Salah's anytime goal scorer odds are 57%. Multiplied by 5, you get 2.85. So Salah's ahead by just 0.01. This is practically the same figure like it is on the anytime assister odds. The weighted probability is pretty much similar, but that's not taking anything away from Haaland. He's got by far the best chance of returning and best chance of not blanking. I just need to reiterate that's hypothetically if he plays the full match. Moving on to the points projections, it's Haaland who takes the lead on Fantasy Football Fix by 0.3. He also takes the lead on Fantasy Football Scout as well with 0.1. There's not much between the points projections this game week across the board, but Haaland's the outright winner. By comparing the opposition's defence, we can see that the City players have the much easier fixture against Forest. These stats are from this and last season combined. The Championship numbers have been converted with a 1.6 multiplier because the Premier League is roughly 60% more difficult from a defensive perspective. Surprisingly, Newcastle have conceded 0.2 goals per 90 minutes more than Forest. However, Forest have been expected to concede 0.4 goals per 90 minutes more, and don't forget that Newcastle's defence has improved over the last 2 seasons. More importantly, the expected goals conceded are better at projecting future goals conceded than the actual goals conceded themselves. This is displayed through the clean sheet odds, where the Geordies are more than twice as likely to keep a clean sheet. The City players have the most favourable fixture by quite a margin. Before we conclude, let's carry out a quick risk assessment. All 3 players have had just over half a week's worth of rest. Something that really concerns me is if Haaland can play 2 fixtures 4 days apart when he played 83 minutes in the first match. I say this because he was seeing reduced minutes even when the fixtures were 1 week apart. Another thing is, Pep mentioned that Haaland wouldn't play matches a few days apart, it would be Alvarez that steps in. We'll have to wait and see if he's true to his word or not, but out of 38 fixtures in a season, Forest at home is ranked as the easiest one. Surely that as a midweek fixture would be the one where he's rested and wrapped in cotton wool. There's quite a lot of data that favours Haaland this game week, but 63 expected minutes is the lowest that I've ever seen on these best captain videos. It's him and Salah in the top 2. You could look at it like this, I know it's not strictly true, but would you rather have Haaland for 63 minutes, an explosive player against the easiest opponents in the league at home? Or would you rather have Salah for almost a full match against Newcastle, which is still a decent fixture at Anfield? Let's not forget that he is still explosive, will not fall for the recency bias, we know exactly what he's capable of. Salah will probably play near 90 minutes. As for Haaland, yeah, he could play a good chunk of that City match, but he could also come on as a cameo, and that's what you don't want. If Salah had a more difficult fixture, or Haaland had more expected minutes, I'd be more likely to go for the latter. There's no right or wrong option. If you're an aggressive player and you want to take the risk on Haaland, that's fine, but for me, I think Salah's good enough, and I'd like to play it safe. Thanks for watching. I've got a team selection video coming out on Tuesday. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already so you don't miss it.